So, it is the last hour and a half of the workshop. I need to take a pause and see what the energy level is like in the room. Is it good? Okay.
Are you ready in the room?
I want to hear how good it is. Are people feeling excited about PCIT?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. All right, this is a good excitement level. We know it's a lot of information, and we really appreciate how engaged you guys are. And what we're going to do now is actually role play for y'all a CDI Teach session. So remember back to Melanie's presentation this morning. One of the very first session we do is that DPICS assessment session. Then we schedule CDI Teach with the parents or the caregivers. And the Teach session is one of your only opportunities to meet with the parents alone. We really encourage the parents to come by themselves without their child for this session for a couple reasons. Primarily, you're going to be doing a lot of talking, reviewing the skills, allowing the parents to ask questions. Basically, it's really kind of boring for a small child, and especially a kid with maybe some impulsive, inattention type behaviors. And so it's kind of boring, hard for them to stay in the room for the length of time. But also, the more and more I do this work, the more and more I realize it is one of your only opportunities to meet with the parent alone. So just thinking about that, as therapists, what do you think is so important about CDI Teach? This is one of the only times it's just going to be you and those caregivers. Rapport, yes, excellent. Rapport is really important here, engagement. And that can be a challenge because you'll hear me, I have a lot of information to cover. I have this handy dandy session outline to go through with these parents, right? So imagine if I was just like, okay, so today I'm going to be talking to you about PCIT and la 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 la. How's that for engagement? Wah, wah, right? So hopefully I will do a good job at kind of balancing that need to get out a lot of information. And it's called CDI Teach because I am going to be doing a lot of teaching. But I hope that I can engage Melanie and Dan in the session. It's a little bit trickier because guess what? They don't actually have a child together. It's kind of scandalous. But so obviously we're going to be pretending here. I do think it's a lot different when you've actually met the child and you've met the parents before. But hopefully you can at least see some of the ways in which I try to do that. And again, I know it's the last hour and a half of the day. I know you guys have been amazing with how engaged you are. So I really want you to try to be thinking as we're going through this role play, what are some of the questions that your parents might actually ask you during this session, and try to hold on to those questions for the end. Okay? All right. Well, good afternoon. How are you guys?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Good to see you guys.
Yep, me too.
Yeah? How you doing, Dan?
Hanging in there, trying to work and balance the family and
Yeah, I know we've talked a little bit already about how there just seems to be a lot going on for you guys right now with Corey's behavior, with your job. Melanie, you just transitioned to a new job, so you've got a lot on your plate too. So I know it is a lot to balance. And I really appreciate that you're here. And I know it's hard to carve out that time, but I just think it speaks so much to your dedication to your son. And I can tell how much you love him just by the fact that you're here today. So I appreciate you. And appreciate
We're ready.
He's a good kid, but
He is. He's a very good kid.
Sometimes be a problem.
Well, I think, and that's one of the things that we talked about last week as well, that given certain situations, he does kind of push against those limits, escalates pretty quickly, and I saw that last week. You guys did an amazing job of managing that. You both stayed so calm. I saw you both give him praise, which is phenomenal. So I'm really excited to work with you guys. I really think that it's going to mean building on the skills you guys already have as parents, because I saw a lot of great skills last week. So I wanted to let you know what we'll be doing today. First, we're going to talk a little bit about the treatment program that we're going to do, the PCIT. I know that we've talked some about it, but I just want to give you an overview, the types of things we're going to be doing, the goals for treatment.
Should we be taking notes?
That's a very good question. I so appreciate you. I'm a note taker too. But actually, I want this as much as possible. I do have a lot of information to get through, not gonna lie. But as much as possible, I want this to be a conversation about Corey and about you guys and how the skills might apply to Corey. So I don't want you to worry about that. And I have these handouts for you that I'll give you at the end that summarize all the information. So don't feel like you have to take notes or memorize everything either. Okay?
Thanks.
Yeah,
Great.
good question. So we'll be talking about that, and then we'll go into the specific skills that we're going to be teaching you to use with Corey when you come in here with him, and then also in those home practice sessions that I talked to you about last week. All right? And then I will give you an opportunity to put me under the spotlight. I'll show you what it looks like. We'll have a chance to practice, and then we're going to talk about how to set it up at home. All right.
Now, I've made an effort to come in here today. It's really hard, my work schedule. Do I have to come every week?
Yeah,
this is hard for me, to make that time.
It's hard for me too.
I know. You guys are both so busy. That's something that
I know, but
that is something that I noticed right from the get-go. That obviously you both have full-time careers. You have your younger daughter. Corey is a handful sometimes. And so you do have a lot on your plate. And so I appreciate so much that you are here. I would encourage you to attend as much as possible just because I want both of you to benefit from these skills. I think that you'll find they're really helpful for him, not just when we come in here. And that's not really what it's about, but for when you're managing Corey throughout the day, more fun ways to interact with him, because I know sometimes that can be stressful right now. So I want to give that to you. I want to give you fun time with your son. So I would encourage you to come whenever you can, and we'll try to be flexible with scheduling, and we'll kind of see how we go. All right?
that's fair.
Great. All right, cool. So again, we've already talked a little bit. Last week I saw, that you both are really positive in how you interact with Corey. You already were using some praise, which is phenomenal. But he's a tester, right? And he's got a strong will. And I actually think that when he is a little bit older, that is going to serve him very well. It's really going to serve him well when he's an adult. But right now he's 5. And he has to learn that 5-year-olds don't always get to run the show. So that is exactly what this program is designed to do, is to give you skills to know what to do in the moment when he's pushing and he's testing those limits. Okay. Do you have any questions for me or kind of general expectations for the program that I should know about up front?
Do we have to do this thing every time we come?
Oh, thank you so much for bringing up the ECB. Yes, and thank you for filling those out. And I am going to ask you to fill these out every week. You'll get much more used to it because you're going to see it a lot. But the reason why I'm going to have you guys fill this out is I want to make sure that this is working for you and for Corey. And so that's what this lets me do. Every week you're going to be rating his behavior from the previous week. So basically, we want this measure to show that his behavior is improving. And if it's not showing that, then I need to know that, so I might need to do something different for your family. We might need to problem solve something specific about the program that might not be working as well. But basically, this holds me accountable and makes sure that we're seeing the progress that you came here to see.
Great.
And I will chart
I noticed we
this for you.
disagreed on some of these. I don't think he argues that much, and Melanie just thinks he constantly argues. So
He always argues.
I don't know.
Well, that's really not uncommon.
Like this morning.
That's actually
with you.
Right, with Melanie, right? So he is, he's with you at different times during the day. He might respond a little bit differently. That's actually why we have you guys do one separately, because we often see that mom and dad see things a little differently. He might be pulling different things out for mom and dad.
His dad just gives in though.
So, and that's where, Dan, that's actually brings up to your earlier question, that's actually why we love to have both parents in treatment, because it can be about, what behaviors is he displaying with you, what behaviors is he displaying with you. They might be different, but regardless, we are going to be consistent in how we respond.
What about Melanie's mom? Because when he goes with her, anything goes, you know?
I know the grandparent syndrome is
Yeah.
not uncommon either. Well, I think we can be talking about that as we go. I mean, you guys are his primary caretakers, so we'll really be working with you in the moment and see as we go whether or not there are ways that we can talk to her about that. But I think a little bit of that is unavoidable with Grandma. That's just how they roll.
And she's around at night when you're at work.
So I am going to be showing this.
Taking off time to be here.
I'm
That's
so
good.
I'm so
That's-
glad
so
that
we need to get on the same page,
Yeah.
obviously.
Well, and you guys are, again, already taking steps towards that, so thank you for that. So yeah, and we'll be graphing this. I'll be charting it every week, so you'll get to see the progress, and I think parents really like to see that as well. All right. So again, we've talked a little bit about it before. PCIT actually has 2 phases. There is the first phase, which we're starting today, and it's called the child-directed interaction. And this phase is really the foundation of PCIT. We're going to be teaching you skills that are very similar to traditional play therapy techniques, actually. Because in essence, what I want to do is I want to use you guys. Because I could work with Corey for 50 years. I will never be as important to him as you are. So I need you guys here. And so I'm going to be teaching you the skills so you know how to respond to him, how to have that warm interaction time. And what we see with CDI is that it really helps calm child's overall behavior, helps them feel more secure, and by giving them some time, just a little bit of time each day where they can lead, it actually makes them much better able to accept parental limits throughout the day. So that's really what we're going to get started with today. And then that second phase, once we all feel comfortable that you know and feel comfortable with the CDI skills, we're going to move on to the second phase, which is called the parent-directed interaction. And when we get there, we'll be teaching you formal discipline strategies to help manage any of Corey's remaining behavior problems. But I promise you, you're going to see a big decrease in his behavior problems in the CDI phase as well. Okay. So today is a teach session. It is more talking. I'm going to talk a lot today. It's more talking than usual. But I really need this time with you to explain the skills of the child-directed interaction, give us time to ask questions and practice it. And then next week, Corey will come in with you. And that's really where we get to have the fun. Because you guys are going to get to play with Corey. And I will be behind that one-way mirror like I was last week for most of the session. And we do what we call coaching. That's where I am going to be jumping in, providing some feedback, and helping you learn to use the skills and use the skills in a way that's most helpful for Corey, because every child is different, right? And when I first go back, I'm going to watch quietly for a few minutes. That lets me make a good game plan, so I know how best to help you in the session, and then we'll move into the coaching phase. And then when we are ready to start the second phase of treatment, we'll have another one of these teach sessions where I review the skills of the parent-directed interaction. And then again, most of the sessions will be coach sessions where we're getting to practice the PDI skills.
So we're going to be playing together with him in the playroom?
Yes.
But no,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Us?
Individually. So what will
okay.
happen is, let's say, Dan, you come in, you and Corey will play together, and Melanie will come back with me, actually,
okay.
And get to.
So we're not doing this all together.
So I get to watch what you're doing. I get to see how he's doing it. How well
And I
it's
get
going.
to watch her.
Yes, and then you guys get to support each other. And you get to give each other lots of praise. And I think it can be really,
That'll be
we're
fun.
going to talk about that today. Yep.
We could use some praise.
Yeah, I think we can.
I think that will be really fun. Yes, I think it can be helpful to be able to watch the interaction when you're not in the moment. And I think actually parents find it really helpful to be able to have that experience. Yeah. And we've already talked about the importance of attendance. It is a very skills-based program. Again, really, in essence, I'm teaching you to be Corey's therapist, which is kind of cool. And so every week we're going to be working on new skills, practicing them. So you can see where, of course, things happen. Everybody, something gets sick or something like that. But if you miss a lot of sessions, we start losing a lot of progress. So we do really encourage that regular attendance piece. But you guys have done a great job of that so far.
I'm trying to make it work, you know?
Yeah, you really are. All right. So first, let's just talk about the general overview of CDI. Again, very similar skills as traditional play therapists use. And that really helps just build on the relationship you have with Corey and build on all those positive skills I saw last week with him. And really, it's pretty cool because what we're going to be doing is teaching Corey to respond to your positive attention. And you're going to see how powerful your attention is to Corey. And that's really going to help manage his behavior, just that application of attention for positive behavior. Also, we see that with young children, especially, I know you've expressed some concerns with his attention span. It helps kids learn to focus in a developmentally appropriate way. It teaches him things like social skills. We talked about sharing with his little sister. It's going to encourage those types of behaviors, those types of pro-social behaviors, and generally increase his self-esteem because he's going to have this one-on-one time with mom or dad.
It's kind of being a boy, you know? I mean, boys do these kinds of things.
The acting out behaviors?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, sometimes it's a problem, but I.
Right, well, and I agree. I mean, here's the thing, Dan. This measure, it's never going to be 0. Because he's a kid, right? And all kids are going to test limits sometimes. Really, it's more about making sure that you guys feel comfortable with whatever he throws at you, you know how to manage it. Okay? So we've already talked about the fact that CDI is actually incredibly powerful. So a lot of parents come in here, they're really looking for discipline strategies, they're really looking for ways to calm their child's behavior right away, and they get in here and I say, we're actually going to hold off on the formal discipline phase for a while. And that can be a little disappointing to parents. Melanie, I see it in your face.
I trust you, though.
We'll
try to trust you.
Okay, all right, trying is good. And you know what? You don't even really have to trust me because you will see it. I promise you that we see huge improvements in child's behavior with CDI. And again, it's really that calming of the overall behavior level that really helps. And we need to teach him how to accept limits from you first. And we need to make sure that that relationship is super, super positive and super, super strong so that he's better able to accept the limits that you set. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of CDI. We're going to talk about the kind of rules of CDI. The number one rule, the one thing that I want you to think about all the time is that in CDI only, which is in session here, and then for 5 minutes a day, Corey gets to lead the play. And so you are going to follow along with him, and as long as he's being appropriate, you're going to just follow whatever he wants to do. And all of the specific skills that I'm going to talk about now really follow from that one rule. Giving Corey just a few minutes a day where he gets to lead the play. Okay. We're going to talk about how to do that. I'm actually going to start with the things that I want you to avoid during the CDI time. Now, once I get going, you're going to see that a lot of these things are very common for parents to do. Remember that I only want you to avoid these things during the CDI time. And that will make more sense as we go. The first rule is to avoid commands. So commands are any sort of statement that either tell Corey directly what to do or even maybe suggests that he do something. So there are two kinds of commands. There are direct commands where you're just very clearly telling Corey to do something. Sit in the chair, hand me the food, hold my hand. Those are pretty clearly commands, right? You're telling him to do something. We also have the indirect commands they make it seem like maybe it's optional, but they're still suggesting he do something. Like, would you hand me that? Can you reach that there? Those types of questions command. Or let's clean up the toys.
This could be hard for you. She tells him what to do a lot, so.
Well, that's actually her job, so that's okay to do. Remember that during the special time, these are very specific rules that we want to avoid just during special time. So the reason why, though, just during the special time is that, really that it takes over the lead of the play. So if Corey doesn't want to play with the food toys, he doesn't have to play with the food toys. We don't want to make a command around it. Also, he might not listen. And then if he doesn't listen, that's really stressful. And then the play becomes not fun, which we don't want that for anyone. We want it to be fun for Corey. We also want it to be fun for you. So that's why we avoid commands, but only during the special time. Okay, the next one is the trickiest. So remember that this is just for the special time. We call it special time for kids, just for the CDI special time. For this time, we want you to try to avoid questions. I know. I'm a therapist, I feel you. But question is any sort of statement that asks for a response from him in any sort of way. So there are the really obvious questions. What did you do in school today? How are you feeling? What is that? What color is that? Those are obviously questions, right? Then we have the sneaky questions. And you probably don't mean for it to be a question, but your voice just kind of tips up at the end. So if I say, oh, Melanie, I'm thinking about wearing the blue dress tonight. And you say, the blue dress? Like that, and your voice just kind of goes, then it becomes a question. And I'm kind of like, yeah, the blue dress. Why? What was wrong with the blue dress? So that's why just for special time, we ask parents to avoid commands, because sometimes, even without meaning to, they can suggest disapproval. Because I'm kind of like, I was going to wear the blue dress, Or it can also suggest that you weren't listening, because I'd said I was going to wear the blue dress. And during special time, we want to make it very clear that you're really following Corey and listening to him.
He's got like kind of speech delay, and so sometimes it's hard to understand him, and I feel like we're both asking him a lot. What'd you say? Yeah. So, we can't do that. We can't ask him to clarify what he told us.
I'm going to ask you to avoid that just during the special time, not
only 5
other
minutes.
times.
Yeah, but our speech therapist talks to us about asking questions and getting into, we've been through that.
We hear that a lot, actually, and I know that is a little bit of conflicting advice, but it's not to say that you can't ask him any questions at other times during the day. And we're going to talk about, actually, ways to handle that. So, for example, it's fine to say, I didn't hear you, but rather than say, what was that? Say that again, which is a command, right? But we'll talk about ways that we actually think that these skills improve child's speech a little bit later. So I actually think this is going to be really good for him. But yes, just for the special time, I'm going to ask you to avoid questions. And even, I think the number one thing to remember about questions is that questions are almost a way of directing the conversation, right? So if he's feeling kind of frustrated about his day at school and you say, how was your day at school today? Which seems like a nice child-centered kind of question, but if he wasn't wanting to talk about it, then he might kind of feel upset and not want to go there. So they take over the lead in a subtle way. So that's why just for the special time we ask you to avoid them. But they're very common, and there's nothing wrong with questions in general. And then the last rule, the thing that we're asking you to avoid, are any sort of critical or negative statements. So anything that kind of points out what he's doing isn't right, isn't nice, even to say things like, don't do that, stop that, we consider those critical statements. Again, very common though, very common. Kids are running down the hall, what's the first thing that comes out of your mouth? Stop. Yes, and that is totally natural. Again, just for this special time, we're going to ask you to avoid those types of statements, and we'll talk about how to handle misbehavior later.
But when we're out to dinner, he's he's all over the place. We can't take that in a restaurant. You got to tell him to stop doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cut it out,
Well, I think that's the type of thing. Remember, we're only asking you to avoid these things during special time. But I will say that I think after, if you practice the special time regularly, those types of behaviors will improve. Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah. So, the really obvious types of criticisms, things like, that's an ugly drawing, you're being a bad boy, I'm not that worried about that with you guys. You guys are very positive with Corey. It was really impressive last week. But even those subtle types of criticisms like, don't do it that way, that one doesn't go there. This is really sneaky. Like, let's say he was going to put Mr. Potato Head in our food bin. And you said, no, that one doesn't go in there. I mean, you're right. But it's still saying what you're doing is wrong. So just for the special time, we want to avoid those types of statements. And I think the reasons for the lack of criticism is pretty obvious. Obviously, it can kind of create a somewhat negative interaction, make him feel kind of bad. And we just want this to be fun, again, for both of you. So those are the avoid skills. Do you remember what they are?
Criticizing.
No criticizing, good.
Oh,
Questions.
my brain's fried. I mean,
Questions, no questions, which is tough, but no questions. And then there's one more.
telling him what to do, like trying to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No commands. Right. No telling him what to do. Right. Good. You guys are good. See, you don't even have to take notes, Melanie. So, yes. So you kind of get to the point. A lot of parents now are like, all right, so I can't ask him questions. Yes. They say, what can I do? So we're going to talk about that. What I want you guys to do during the special time.
I don't know what else I could say. At this point, you pretty much covered everything.
And this is why this is so cool. So we have a fun little acronym to help you remember these skills. We call them the do skills, the things we want you to do. And the acronym is PRIDE. So for every letter of PRIDE, we have a skill. The P in PRIDE stands for praise. So praise is any sort of statement that points out something Corey is doing well, something you like about Corey, something he's doing that you really like. So there are two types of praise. There's unlabeled praise when you say to him, that's really nice, you're being such a good boy, thank you. Those are positive statements. But there's labeled praise that are positive statements that also let him know specifically what is positive. So whereas an unlabeled praise is to say, I like that, a labeled praise is to say, Corey, I really like when you share with your sister, right? And we talked about last week that you really want to see more of that behavior. And that is exactly why we encourage labeled praise in PCIT. Because Corey loves your praise. I mean, everybody loves praise. I am an adult and I love praise, right? So if I know what I need to do to get it, I'm going to do more of that behavior, and kids even more so. So if Corey knows what he needs to do to earn your praise, he is going to really increase that behavior. So we've talked about sharing being a treatment goal. So anytime you see him sharing, thank you so much for sharing with your sister. I really like it when you share so nicely.
Now, are these skills good to use with Stella too?
Excellent question. You are on the ball. Yes, absolutely. And she's actually right. She's a little young, she's just 2, right? But she is absolutely a good age to use these types of skills. Okay. Yes, indeed. Good question. We would really encourage that as well. So we're going to really focus on label praise in here. Thank you for sharing. I really like how you're sitting quietly. I like it when you use your indoor voice. Again, really thinking about those behaviors that we want to see more of and praising the heck out of them. It works like a charm. Kids love it.
But then he'll hit occasionally. So what are we supposed to do then?
Well, so we wouldn't want to praise hitting,
yeah.
right?
So what do we do?
Well, you guys are really on top of the game. So if you don't like hitting, you don't want to say thank you for not hitting, because that's kind of like, it's almost like a dig in a way. What I'm going to have you guys really start to think about is positive opposites. So if he's hitting, what is a positive opposite behavior? What do you want him to do instead of hit?
He's sitting nicely.
Sitting nicely.
Keeping his hands to himself.
Keeping his hands to himself. Using gentle
use that at
hands.
school.
Using gentle hands with Stella. Yeah, absolutely. So when you see those behaviors, praise those up. I really like how you're playing gently with your sister. I like how you're keeping your hands to yourself. Those types of behaviors. Absolutely. And these are good. This is a good skill to use at any point during the day that you notice those behaviors. So P is for praise. Any questions about that?
But I feel like you didn't answer my question. So what do I do when he hits? I mean, we're in the play. I mean, I'm praising him for gentle hands,
She's
but
probably
then
gonna
he
get there. She's
smacks
probably
me.
gonna talk
You
about
know?
it. Are you gonna
Yeah.
talk? You're gonna talk about that soon.
Yes, it's a really good question and a really
Just want to know. I mean,
Yeah,
that's why
well,
we're here, right?
exactly.
We want to get into hit less,
exactly.
This is that first phase, right?
I guess.
We're going to see, that's a really common question. So I am going to cover that in a little bit, but excellent question.
She's leading this meeting, right?
No, but it's good. It's good because I want you guys to ask questions and be involved in it. So thank you.
We can take some initiative here.
So P is for praise. R is for reflect. Okay? Reflection is repeating Corey's appropriate speech. And this is what I was talking about when I was talking about improving his language. So to reflect is to either, you can do an exact repetition. So if he says, a blue car, you can say, it is a blue car. You can also expand a bit, especially with his language maybe being not as quite at the level that you want it to be. If he says, the cow goes, the moo-moo is in the barn. And you can say, that's right, the cow is in the barn. Right? So you are reflecting what he said, providing the appropriate word, cow, without making it negative. Without saying, no, no, don't say moo-moo, say cow. Right? He just hears it, and then it's just really expanding on what he said. And we really see a big improvement in child's speech with reflections.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great for him. So reflections, again, we've seen, especially with children his age, it really helps improve their language, and it really shows you're listening. I mean, if you're going to reflect him, you really have to be listening to what he says. So again, that number one rule of following his lead shows you're right there with him, you're leading the conversation, or you're letting him lead the conversation, and you're following along with him.
So your BlackBerry has to be put away for this, right? We can't have our phones out while we're with him.
It's gonna. We're gonna talk about how best to set that up.
I mean, at home. I'm on call. I can't. It's gonna be hard, but.
Yeah, and we'll talk about remembering that the home practice will just be 5 minutes, and we'll talk about kind of the best way to set it up and the best times to set it up and things like that.
Right.
Yeah. So R is reflect. The I in pride stands for imitate. So imitation is just following along with what Corey is doing. So if Corey is building a tower, you're building a tower. If Corey picks up a crayon and starts to draw, you pick up a crayon and start to draw. And so, just do what he does, basically. And then number one reason for that, again, is it lets him lead. You're saying what you're doing is cool. You hear imitation is the best form of flattery. I mean, there's some truth in that. Kids love it when their parents are actually doing what they do. I mean, no one does that for little kids. So it's really nice for kids. And it actually helps keep the play at his level. Right? You guys are adults, you're busy. I don't know how much time you have to play with Legos, but I know I don't have much time. And so it can be nice to just let him lead the play and make sure that it's something that he wants to do. You don't have to worry about it, you just do what he does. And it's also a nice way, again, talking about the sharing, it can be a nice way to start to model that sharing in an unobtrusive way. So he puts a block on his tower, and maybe you put a block on the tower. And then you can praise him for letting you join and for sharing his blocks. So it's a really nice way to teach that to kids as well. So that's the imitate. The D in pride stands for description. Call these behavior descriptions, and they are a running commentary on the child's ongoing behavior. So basically, whatever he's doing with his hands, you're acting almost like a sports commentator on what it is. He's got the car. You are driving your car across the table, and you're bringing it up the ramp, really focusing on what he's doing with the toys, making sure that it's focused exactly on what he is doing rather than what the toys are doing. So you are driving the car up the ramp is a behavior description. The car is going up the ramp is not, because we really want to keep it focused on Corey. Again, behavior descriptions show the child that you are following their lead, that you're into what he's doing, so much so that you're that sports commentator. Again, really cool for kids. Another really nice piece of behavior descriptions is that they actually help young kids learn to focus on the task. Again, that's something that Melanie, you shared with me that you want to see improve for Corey. And little kids, I mean, a lot of little kids have a hard time focusing, right? Because this part of your brain right here that's kind of in charge of focusing on tasks is not developed until you're like early 20s. Which also explains a lot about teenagers, in my opinion, right? But little kids, as you're describing, it's almost like you are acting it out for them, and that helps them hold their attention. So it's cool, like you'll say, oh, you're driving the car up the ramp, and he'll be like, yes, I am. You can kind of see it on their face. So it's a nice piece of behavior descriptions as well. And then the E in pride stands for enjoy. Okay? We just, again, we want this to be fun for you guys. We want it to feel natural. We want you to enjoy, have the time to enjoy Corey. So whatever that means for you guys. There's no like you have to do this to show enjoyment, but you know, letting it come through in your voice. We don't really want to be like, thank you for sharing the toys with me, right? I mean, that's kind of creepy. Like, that feels weird, right? So just let it come through in your voice. Thank you so much for sharing with me. And if you want a little pat on the back or whatever is comfortable for you, but just letting it come through how much you're enjoying the time with him. And again, I'm not really worried about that with you guys because you saw that last week with both of you. But it's important, so. All right, so those are the pride skills. Remember what they stand for?
Oh gosh, it's like not expecting the test here.
Praise.
Praise.
Repeat.
Yes, reflect and repeating.
It's I.
I think E was engage or something.
Is very close, yes.
Enjoy.
Yep.
And describe.
Yep,
Start
and D
students
stands for
here.
describe. You
Like-
guys are a good team.
Like doing what he's doing, you know, like copying him.
Imitation.
Imitation.
Yes.
Right.
Excellent teamwork, you two. Yes, you got it. So yeah, those are the do skills. That's what we want you to focus on during special time. Okay. Now, kids often, when you're doing these skills, they love it. They get to lead. They get to choose the game. You're giving them lots of praise. It's
love it.
really fun. But Dan, this gets back to your earlier question. They will sometimes misbehave, even
Let's see what
during
she
special
says.
time. All right. So what we're going to talk about now is how to handle that. Because I've taken away commands and negative talk, right? I've taken away the no, don't, stop, quit. So we're going to talk about what to do instead. So I'm really going to encourage you guys to ignore a lot of misbehavior. Not if safety is a concern, but a lot of misbehavior is attention seeking. Kids are looking for that reaction from you. And you even said that last week, Melanie. You said, I really think he was trying to get to me. He knows I hate it when I...
He knows how to get a rise out of her, you know? I mean,
Kids are smart.
Yeah.
Kids are smart, and they know exactly what to do to push your buttons. Right? And that's often what they're looking for. It's just that reaction from you. So we're going to remove that attention. And the removal of your attention is actually an incredibly powerful consequence. So we're going to ignore a lot in here. We're going to ignore whining. Crying, you know, when they're fine, they're just doing that fake cry. Yelling, being a little bit rough with the toys. Obviously not if he's destroying the toys, but if he's just being a little rough.
Doesn't he get the message then that it's okay? Like, I think it's fine that he's doing that?
Right. That's a really common question as well, because when I say ignore, it kind of feels like, so don't do anything. But here's the thing, you are actually doing a lot. First, you're going to be removing your attention, which is a really powerful consequence for him. And as you're ignoring, you are actually going to be playing with the toys. We call it active ignoring, meaning a couple things, meaning that you have to be playing and keep going and acting like he's not even there. But then at the same time, you've got to keep your eye on him.
Do I tell him, like, I'm ignoring you?
No, that's actually subtly providing attention. I want it to be like, when you're ignoring, I want it to be a complete removal of your attention so that if I was focused in on you, I wouldn't even know Corey was in the room.
you've got good practice with this with me.
I'm practicing right now.
So I think we've all had those times when ignoring is really helpful, right? So yeah, but we talk about the whole body ignore. I don't even want to see on your face that what he's doing is upsetting you. So to get back to your question, Melanie, you're actually doing a lot when you're ignoring. You're removing your attention very mindfully, very carefully, and then you're watching for when he's actually appropriate again, and then you'll jump in with a labeled praise. So if you are, I work with some parents who are like, oh yeah, no problem, I ignore him all the time.
I see.
Maybe, maybe not, but that's a little different from in here. It's a very purposeful removal of your attention and then returning that attention as soon as he's appropriate. So it's actually a fair amount of work for the parents, but it's very effective. And it's often less stressful than what you've had to do in the past. So, because you get to kind of at least disengage.
What if he doesn't stop? He just keeps on going.
Yeah, like he'll take it to the next level.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Ignored behavior will get worse before it gets better, right? Because here's what's going to happen. He's going to start with the whining, right? And maybe we start ignoring, you're doing a great job. And then he's like, hey, Mom is not paying attention to me. What is this about?
He's going to start pulling on her shirt and,
So he might get louder. He might actually get in your face. Mom, I'm yelling. I had one kid who, first time we did an ignore, he goes, Mom, I'm yelling at you, right? Because he was so shocked
Scoring.
that Mom was not paying attention to this. It had worked for him in the past, So he's looking, and he's pushing. So that's very common. So what we're going to do is just know that ignored behavior will get worse before it gets better. We've got to see and ignore all the way through, though. Once we start ignoring a behavior, we have to ignore all the way through until the behavior has ended. Because let's say we didn't do that. Let's say we were ignoring, he's whining, gets a little louder, you're ignoring, gets even louder, you're trying to ignore, it's getting really tough. Then he's like in your face, and you're just like, I can't take this.
That's it.
And you give the attention. What has he just learned?
That I can't do it.
Well, he's learned that, the getting in Mom's face and the yelling really loud, that's where I needed to go, right? I mean, everybody's been there in the grocery store. I mean, I see it all the time. Kid, parent in the line to check out. Long line, kid's tired. Mom, I want a candy bar. Can't have a candy bar before dinner. No, but I really want a candy bar. Can't have a candy bar for dinner, right? It's happened to everybody, right? Kid gets louder.
Just give it to him.
Kid tantrums, kid throws himself on the floor, and then he gets the candy bar.
It's embarrassing. You can't.
Yeah.
That's why he doesn't argue as much with you.
So yeah, it's embarrassing. And so there's this moment of, okay, just have the candy bar, right? And that, again, very normal. But it can send the message, I needed to go to 100 to get the candy bar. So we're going to kind of teach him, learn to reverse that right here. But that being said, I'm not trying to say it's easy. And that's where I come in, right? Because I'm behind you, literally behind the mirror, and metaphorically behind you. I'm going to be talking you through it. I'm going to be coaching you through it. I'm going to be telling you exactly what to do. And we will get through it. So I'm really going to encourage you to ignore a lot of things. And just know that ignored behavior will get worse before it gets better, but then it really works. And I think you will be shocked at how effective it is, actually. It's a good skill.
But the hitting, we can't ignore that.
Yes,
right?
Correct. Thank you, Dan. That was a perfect segue.
I'm waiting for this, what do we do?
So during special time, if he hits, then anything that is overly aggressive or destructive, we just can't ignore, right? Because obviously everybody's safety is our first concern. So what we're going to do is end special time. And I'll be right here with you if it happens in session at least, and say, special time is over because you hit me. Maybe next time you can behave in special time. And actually, Dan, that removal of special time is often, again, a very powerful consequence because kids love it. So that in and of itself is a powerful consequence.
What about, outside of special, he may not hit in this time, but he's hitting Melanie all the time. He's hitting his sister. What are we supposed to do?
So, well, I'm going to put you under the spotlight here. Just thinking about all of the skills we've talked about up to this point, what do you think I would recommend?
I mean, right now we try timeout. Doesn't really work. But I don't know. I mean, he does it a lot. You know, that's why we're here. That's
We
one of the
could
main
praise
reasons
though when he's not doing it.
Yes.
The
Yes.
gentle, like keeping his hands to himself.
Right,
We don't
absolutely.
do that ever.
No,
really.
I don't.
So that's a really good, you guys are so good. Yeah, that's a really good technique. I know, and I know
She's
what
the
you,
age
She's
student
good. She's
here.
doing it. She's doing those things on us.
I think she is.
Yeah.
I can't help it. It's just how I am.
It's good. It feels good. We could use it.
You guys are going to start doing it on each other. You're going to start doing it with your coworkers.
Could use some praise, you know.
So yeah, guilty as charged. You know, you guys got my number pretty quickly. But yeah, you guys are really good though. Yeah, absolutely. And I know, Dan. I mean, I totally understand that feels almost somewhat simplistic right now. You know, I mean, I know hitting is not okay, and I'm not at all saying that it is okay. But I would really encourage you to capitalize on the times. And even if he's hitting a lot, there's going to be a lot of opportunities where he's not. Right? I mean, just think about throughout the day. I mean, how many times do you think he hits throughout the day, if you had to guess? I know you'd fill that out.
5-10 times a day, I would think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is pretty high. But
Yeah.
then think about the rest of the day when you can really jump on that label praise for positive opposites. And we can talk through more specifically some of the consequences for hitting too, because I'm not trying to say that it's okay. But I think that's a good first step.
Okay.
And I'd really encourage you. And it'll give you good practice right away, which will be awesome. Okay, good. So again, just want to remind you though that if we are going to ignore, you really want to, kind of related to this, you really want to jump on the positive behavior as soon as he's done with the inappropriate. So we're really going to be, again, that's where the active ignoring comes in. You're actually really paying attention to him. He just doesn't know it. And then let's say we're ignoring yelling. And let's say he quiets down almost just because he's tired. I just want you to jump on it. Thank you so much for quieting down. I love it when you play calmly and we can keep playing. Really teaching him the difference. When I'm appropriate, I get mom and dad's attention. When I'm not, I'm removed.
And one thing he likes to do is like he'll be playing or he'll be doing something and that's fine, but he'll be whining and whining and whining. So do we just turn away then, or?
Another good question. Yeah, so how, I almost call it like levels of ignoring. You know, if he's throwing a temper tantrum in your face, ignoring, versus, maybe he's playing with the toys and he just goes, these toys are so stupid, I'm not a baby. And then he stops.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I may have heard it before. It's a favorite. So yeah, you're gonna ignore the whining and then say, oh, I love the tower you're building. So jump on the positive. Okay. The one thing we have going for us with little kids is they're usually doing about 10 things at once.
He is, yeah.
So
He's always doing something.
So if we use our label praise so he knows what he's doing that's good and use that, then we can reinforce that behavior. Yeah, good question. Okay. So we've talked about the basic skills of CDI, and now I'm going to show you what it looks like. How about that?
Okay.
So I will be the parent. And I need one of you to be Corey. You can just let it all come out.
Sure.
Dan's good at acting like a child.
Okay, Corey, it's special time.
These are stupid.
Oh, and I love the cereal they have here. Grapefruit juice, yum. And apple juice, another grapefruit. I love all the food toys. Oh, thank you so much for playing calmly with the toys, Corey. I really like it when we play together.
Here, eat this. He does that all the time. Eat this.
I think I need some orange juice too for my juice collection. Thank you so much for playing gently with the toys, Corey. Oh, and you found grapes, and you're stacking your bread. You found a chicken. I love how you're playing with me.
Yeah. Makes sense. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Makes sense?
I guess.
So what
yeah.
did you see me do?
You definitely did the ignoring. You were praising things that Corey did.
And notice, this is actually, you know your son, right? This is very common where you have to ignore. You get the positive, you jump on it, and then he went back.
You were fast. Just really fast.
Yeah.
Timing, and that's where it'll be helpful to have me too, because I'll help you kind of keep your eye and jump in with a label praise as soon as he's appropriate, because the timing is critical, right? Sometimes with kids who are impulsive with short attention spans, we don't have a ton of time to be like, oh, now you're being appropriate. Maybe I'll give a label praise, right? That timing is critical, but that's again where I come in, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
Okay? All right, so now it's your turn.
Yeah, you got to do it.
Everybody's gonna get to try.
Okay. So I'm Corey?
Parent.
Oh, I'm me.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So how do I introduce it?
You can just say it's special time.
Okay.
He'll know. He'll learn.
Okay, it's our special time.
Great job letting him lead,
Let's
Melanie.
knock all these over, Mommy.
Good ignoring, Melanie. Awesome job ignoring.
Want some chicken?
Nice.
Oh, thank
Chicken.
you.
Great praise.
Bagel?
Bagel?
Nice.
bagel?
Nice repeating his words.
That was a question, wasn't it?
It was
You're Corey.
really
Pizza?
awesome job following him.
That's a French fry.
Good following his play,
He always
Melanie.
puts food in his mouth, like these things in his mouth all the time. Like, what are we supposed to do?
So what do we think we do with that, Mom?
Good pretending.
Excellent. Label praise for a positive opposite. You're amazing. Good. Good praise. And what is he doing now?
So you took the bun.
Excellent behavior description. Nice job, Mom.
Good job.
Nice praise.
And you put all these pieces down.
Excellent behavior description.
Chocolate.
I do love
whoop.
chocolate.
Good enthusiasm. All right,
Chocolate.
Melanie, nice job. Excellent job. So I heard several label praises. You jumped right in with some good ignoring. Jumped on him with a label praise when he was being appropriate. And you got some good behavior descriptions in as well. How did it feel?
It's hard trying to remember so many things at once. I didn't want to ask a question, and then I heard a question.
I know, and
then
you barely asked any questions, which is the hardest thing. That was awesome.
You heard it though.
I heard one.
It was so close to a reflection.
Of course
You're
you did.
awesome. So really nice job. And of course, I mean, you just learned this like a minute ago. So of course it's gonna feel overwhelming a little bit, but it's just like anything else. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll feel. All right, Dad's
I gotta
turn.
go. Oh, great.
And Mom gets to be Corey.
All right, so we just do like, okay, now we're gonna play kind of thing.
It's special time.
All right, special time.
Great job letting Corey lead.
What's
Let's
this?
play catch.
What do you?
Let's play catch.
Good
You have to-
ignoring.
Let's play catch.
You have to-
Good
it's
ignoring,
really
Dad.
hard, you know?
I
I
know,
mean-
it's really hard. You're already doing a good job ignoring. You can just describe your play.
It's green apple.
Oh, these are
Good,
grapes. You
great
like grapes.
describing
Oh,
your
what is
play.
that? Those are grapes?
Nice,
Yeah, those are
nice.
grapes.
Turning your attention to him.
Those are grapes? Yeah,
Good
this is really hard.
reflection. You're doing great, Dad.
Ew, I don't like this kind of pizza. Do you like this kind of pizza?
Yeah, I like that.
Good.
I'm
Good
having
following
waffles for dinner.
his lead.
Waffles for dinner.
And now he's calmed down.
Want a waffle for dinner? Here, you can have a waffle for dinner too.
Oh, thanks for the waffle.
Excellent label praise.
And a donut. Ooh, I like eating here better than at home.
Thanks.
Good praise.
Well,
Good
thanks.
following his lead, Dad.
I wish we ate more French fries.
That was
French
good.
fry? Nope, it's mine.
That was good ignoring that. Good ignoring that, Dad. He's being a little sassy. It's all right.
Have some cereal.
And
I'm
now,
gonna eat the cereal now.
good imitation.
Use your spoon.
Oh, thanks.
Nice praise.
And you need to have more juice.
You give me all this stuff.
Great behavior description. All right, Dad. Nice job.
It's hard.
It is. It's a lot
It's
at
hard
first.
not to ask questions.
Yeah.
I'm like, got a million things going on in my head.
And grapes.
Well-
Oh, you
Again, this is brand new. You guys both did an amazing job. I'm really impressed with how you jumped right in with ignoring, which can be very tricky at first. You both got some good praises in. You both barely asked any questions, which is like the hardest thing. So I'm so excited. We're gonna have fun. And Corey is gonna love it. You will see. So, all right, so we have gone through the structure, and we're just gonna talk about how to set up that special time. What are we gonna use for play? What we encourage for CDI are the more open sets, creative toy sets without rules. So fake food is great. Crayons and paper are great. Any sort of building toy like Lincoln Logs or Legos, Duplos, Tinker toys, those are great. Farm set or car set, those are good CDI toys. We basically want open toy sets that don't have rules.
He and I go to like Home Depot to do those activities with kids every once in a while. I would try to have that special time. So does that count? I mean, we like do those tasks together. And
I think it's awesome to have father-son time, and I bet he loves going to Home Depot. That seems like a good father-son activity.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about how to set up the special time at home so that it is more like that play therapy session. So I think having a set time and a set place at home will be good for him. Again, really calming. That way you can make sure you're just focused just on him. But I would encourage you to keep that up because I bet he loves it.
yeah, I mean, we have a good time.
Yeah,
So.
it sounds really fun.
Yeah.
So, good. So yeah, more kind of open play sets that allow creative, interactive play. We actually, for special time, we discourage things like board games or card games because they have rules. And what if the kid breaks the rules? Then it's just not fun. Also, it kind of has a set way of doing things, and we want it to be more open for both of you to just explore and have fun with the toys. Also, toys that encourage kind of rough or messy play aren't the best for special time because remember, I've taken away your commands and your questions.
So wrestling, no, you guys can't do that wrestling stuff.
I mean, he likes it. He has fun, but
yeah, again, wonderful father-son bonding, just not that special time that's going to be aggressive. And again, we want it to be a calming time for him where you sit down and you're kind of interacting one-on-one, face-to-face type of thing. So any types of toys that you can think of that you own at home?
Oh yeah, we have the Lincoln Logs, the Tinker toys.
Great, those are great.
He loves the little Legos. They're all over. Just doesn't clean them up.
Okay, great. So those are all really good special time toys. And what you're going to do is pick 2 or 3. We don't want it to be every single possible activity because that's going to be really overwhelming for him. So pick 2 or 3 of those. Set them up in a quiet area of the house where maybe there aren't a ton of distractions.
quiet area. Good luck.
Yeah, well, it's a challenge for all of us, I think.
Yeah, but that area, like in our room, where we have.
I guess. So it shouldn't be in his playroom. I mean, we should do it separate from his playroom.
It could be. Just, I mean, a playroom might be a little, depending on how many toys he has.
He's got a
but
lot
that's
of
where
toys.
he has like Sorry and all those games,
Okay.
and he will like that. He'll want to
his
play
DS is
that.
always
He'll
hanging
say,
around
"Oh,
there.
I want
I
to do
mean-
that."
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are really, again, great activities. Kids love them, but they're not really allowing that interaction. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Melanie, that we don't want that temptation there. It's really hard to compete with a DS. So,
What
It's
about
always
reading?
around.
What about, it doesn't sound like reading?
reading is another one of those wonderful activities to do with your child. We really encourage parents to read, but I think you're picking up on the fact that it's not really allowing that interaction as much. You're kind of reading at him and not allowing that play. So for special time, I would, specifically for the special time, I would stick with the more creative, interactive toys.
Okay.
So picking 2 or 3, kind of set them up. You said something about maybe in your bedroom. There's like kind of an area.
Yeah, but it's like a little alcove area. I guess
Okay.
that can work. Yeah.
Good. So set them up in that area. Again, not the time to answer all the phone calls and try to be getting dinner ready or trying to be straightening up too. What
about Stella? I mean, Stella's going to be in. I know Melanie's when she's home alone with the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, Stella's going to be in there, but she's not going to let them play alone. So what are we supposed to do?
Right. We do want it to be one-on-one time with Corey.
Well, if you came home like 30 minutes earlier, 15 minutes earlier,
hard for me,
we could
but,
take turns.
Okay. Well, this is a good discussion too. We want to talk about
Unless the
what
mornings.
time, and I know everybody is super busy. Remember, we're just looking for those 5 minutes. So this is a good discussion of when could you do special time, each of you.
I mean, I
where you
give the
could
kids
do
a bath
just
every
Corey.
night, so could I do it during that?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have bath toys are often very good CDI toys because they don't tend to have rules. Do you
It
have
happens
kind
together though.
Yeah.
Oh, with Stella.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
as
we
well.
could do it separate. We could do baths separately, I mean,
Would that be feasible? I know
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah, I think
bedtime
so.
routines are very
because I'm
structured.
home in that time, and I know I try to do that every night. So,
Nice. That's cool.
yeah.
Okay.
And you have kind of bath toys that would work?
Yeah, I think we have some we have some things that I think we have like kind of like blocks and like floaty blocks.
Floaty blocks? Yeah, those are good. Okay. So that sounds like a good time. Obviously, either Stella's in bed or you've got Stella during that time. And how about for you, Melanie?
I think
special
after
time
you
with
could
Corey.
be with Stella, and then I can do it in our room like we talked about,
Right.
so that we could do the other
After
toys
bath
that you
time?
talked. Yeah. Like near to bedtime, it's a good like settling down.
Yeah, I actually love special time right before bed because it is calming for kids. I think it's a nice part of the bedtime routine, honestly.
Okay, we'll try it.
Makes sense, yeah.
And I
Give it
would
a try.
encourage you, if you can, while he's doing special time with Corey, you can absolutely set up special time with Stella
Okay,
and vice versa.
she'll love that.
Yeah.
Kids are kind of, sometimes siblings are a little jealous.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well,
all of a
she's,
sudden-
she's a handful herself.
So that could be really helpful for her as well.
Okay.
So you guys will kind of swap kids
Okay.
Sounds good.
for special time? Great, awesome. All right, so we do want you to do 5 minutes. And parents will say, well, can I do, what if we go over? What if it's 6 minutes? 6 minutes is fine, but we don't want it to go a lot longer than 5 minutes. 5 minutes is long enough. Again, it might be a little surprising, but 5 minutes is long enough to have a therapeutic effect on Corey. You will see that this is a very powerful time for him. It's also short enough, hopefully, to be reasonable for you guys, because you guys are busy. Okay? We don't want it to be this thing you have to do over an hour every night, because that's just not going to happen. Wouldn't happen for most families. And we also want it to be fun for you and not overwhelming. You guys both noted that to really be doing the skills, it takes a lot of concentration. And sometimes if parents come in and they say, oh yeah, we did special time for an hour. And I'm like, that's great. Did you really not ask any questions for an hour? And they're like, oh yeah. I'd rather he have a concentrated dose of special time than, kind of wishy-washy. So we ask to stay around 5 minutes every day. Okay. And sounds like that's something that you guys can commit to, though. You guys did a great job of problem-solving time.
Should be
We
doable.
can try to make it work. yeah.
Good. All right. So as promised, Melanie, I have your handout.
Nope.
So this first one goes over the skills of the CDI. You'll see it starts with the pride skills and talks about why we encourage you to use the skills and gives you some examples of each.
You should share this with your mom.
Then it talks about the avoid
Yeah.
skills. Again, reasons, examples of each. And then it talks about how to handle misbehavior during CDI. So I'm going to give that to you. I also have a handout that goes over the appropriate toys and activities to do for special time, and then kind of toys to avoid during CDI. And I think we've come up with some good ones that you guys have at home, which is awesome. And I have homework sheets for you. I know. Exciting. I bet you thought you were done with those. But no math is involved, I promise. Really straightforward. And really, again, this is really so that I know how best to help you guys use the skills at home with Corey. So very basic, were you able to practice special time that day? And just a really brief description of the activity. Like you can literally write Lincoln Logs.
Okay.
And then just any problems or questions that happened during that time. again, so that I can help you problem solve anything that comes up. And if you could, bring these back for me next week. Bring them every week, actually.
Okay.
Any questions about
And
that?
we each fill out one.
Yes, I have 2 for you here.
Okay.
And actually, what we can do on my way out is I can grab you extra ones if you wanted to jot down for Stella.
Yeah. I
Just
think
if
we
any
should. I think we
questions, if any questions come up with Stella, again, I'm better able to help you with that.
should. Okay.
Okay.
Great.
All right, that is it, guys. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions for me?
I think that's it.
Well, thank you so much. You guys did amazing today. Okay, really quickly, because we want to give you guys time to do some practice at the end of the day, but any comments? Reflections?
The 5 minutes seems really short.
Yes, the 5 minutes seems really short. And the parents will say that too. Is that really long enough? And the amazing thing is, yes. And that's one of those, I almost think you have to see it to believe it, but it really is.
The other thing is, I would say that actually I always assure parents that 5 minutes seems short, but it's actually a lot longer than it seems, because by the time you set up the toys and you do the 5 minutes and then actually the parents clean up because the child isn't supposed to clean up, it ends up being longer. And even so, even if we just at 5 minutes, I don't think this is unique to, I live in New York City, but kids are really busy. They're scheduled so tight, and so are parents, right? Between work, between all the demands, siblings. So actually, I mean, 5 minutes can be hard to get in. So some parents will say, you think I can't spend 5 minutes with my child? Are you serious? And I normalize it. I say, yeah, it can be hard to find 5 minutes with your child. And it really, it can. But the good news is it is really effective. And it is sort of short enough to work, but it's not as short as it seems.
And as you all start practicing, you're going to realize how hard this really is when you start. And 5 minutes seems like an eternity when you're trying not to ask questions. It is really, really difficult. So I think when you go too much over that, it's very challenging. So.
Yes.
Just a quick question. I stepped out for 2 seconds. I'm not sure if you mentioned this, but what is the requirement for your special time? Because I'm co-leading a parent training class, and we require like once a week.
Oh.
So is it like an everyday thing, or do you require once
It
a
is
week?
every day. I don't know that I actually said it. It's on the homework sheet.
Okay.
And I said to them, did you practice this day, yes or no? But I don't think I said it explicitly, which is a good question. Every day is our goal. Now, if a parent comes in and they've done 6 out of 7, that's really good. But it is that daily dose of play therapy. It's short, but it's regular that we think has the effect. Yeah.
Do they have to take data during the session? Like, do you want them to be like, oh, I reflected it this?
Great question. So actually, they don't code themselves in session, but when there are 2 caregivers, we do typically, it's a suggested item, but I know I do it, have the other caregiver code along with, because it helps them get more familiar with the skills if they're tallying with you. And for some, it's hard for them. For some, they actually get reliable really quickly. And I think it actually helps, at least with the families that I see, that they actually have to put their own electronics away so that they're not behind the mirror on their Blackberries or their smartphones doing other things. They can actually really engage with the session and learn from the modeling. So I find it incredibly useful.
Yes.
So I know that in the beginning you said think about reactions that your own parents would have to this kind of a thing. And one of the things that strikes me about this is that, our parents are not flowery people. They're very much straight shooters. My dad, I can promise you, would never use the word special, share, appreciate in the context of like people and emotions. And especially when you get into the Sheila Iger one-to-one praise for the adults, like my parents would catch on within 30 seconds. And I know that you did the guilty as charged thing, and I think that that's one really good strategy. But what if like someone like my parents, granted they might not say it until they left the session, but what if someone like my parents were, kind of doing the vibe of like, oh, this lady is patronizing me, and I'm an adult, I don't want to be talked down to in this preschool sing-song kind of having trees way.
Such a good
You know what I
question.
mean?
Yeah.
Like,
It's a
that's
great
what I'm saying.
question.
Viscerally, that's how my parents would feel if you said, I appreciate you for sharing. That's the kind of thing my dad would say.
Yeah, it's good. I actually personally, I always say a statement because I think all of us that do this kind of work can be kind of cheesy. So I always actually give that caveat. I'm like, look, I'm not asking you to be like I'm being right now and kind of doing this cheesy. Like I throw it out there and I say you're going to have your own style when you do this. So that's kind of like a statement I usually share with parents. I think you'd be surprised. I remember, unfortunately, we can't show videos because it's on the web. But I'm remembering back when we were on graduate school, there was one dad in particular that was a very like typical, burly kind of dad that you would never think would kind of do this, and he jumped right in and was really all over it. So I think you'd be surprised how parents can
And it's genuine. So
Right.
I have parents who will joke about it or who will call me on it, and I say, listen, I'm telling you, only praise behaviors that are appropriate for your child. So you're being genuine. I only praise what I see. Sometimes I have to tone it down. This is true. I work on that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it is about matching your parent's style. That's sort of good clinical judgment. But the reality is we don't say it unless we mean it. Like we're actually looking, and I think parents understanding it is a parallel process. We're transparent about that. We want to use the skills we're asking you to use because they work. But
Because they
we're
do
real
work.
about it. We're not going to tell you you're doing well at something that we don't think you're doing well at.
And I think, it might be a little bit harder in a role play, but I do think, you try to make it genuine. I was trying to praise them when I saw them working together because immediately I recognized that as an issue, right? And so, and it doesn't, even if they're like, I don't need that stuff, that's not me, I'm not 5, you'll get that.
Right.
The issue is that, think about what John Paul talked about earlier this morning and where our parents are coming from and the messages they've received about their parenting and why they might be resistant to that praise. And just like how a kid might be resistant to praise because they never heard it, they don't hear it in school, a parent coming to you for PCIT, I'm not talking about particular family, they might be resistant because they've never heard it. And they might deep down kind of be thinking, I don't deserve it. So just as, for a kid, and you'll see this sometimes in the beginning of PCIT, kids will push against the skills. We don't say, oh, they don't work for this kid. They do. It's just a matter of, I think, what they're saying about finding a way that's genuine. And for a particular dad, I might learn the language that he responds better to. That's where the art of it comes in. I might learn the things that he appreciates more and the words that he uses more, and I'm going to match that. But I'm not going to say, oh, well, for this family, I'm not going to praise them. Because it is about that parallel process and building up our parents' confidence and efficacy.
But it's such a good point because I think part of what, as you see more families, you'll get more confident because there are a lot of things that can come up in PCIT that can cause you to question because there's a lot of details and a lot of things to remember. So long as you understand the rationale for every step of what you're doing and you can back it up and explain it, that's key,
Okay, that really helps me. I feel like I have a lot of strategies for if they call me out, things that I could say back, this is just how we do things. I'm sorry if it comes across as cheesy, but what I'm saying is real. I think that those kinds of things, guilty as charged, I think just kind of having a bunch of those in your back pocket is in the heat of the moment. You're guilty as, what I mean? It just, you can rely on.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you
think
can
about
own it.
Carl Rogers' genuineness and empathy. I mean, that's what you're going to be doing as a therapist. I mean, you're essentially teaching the parents to do that with the child, and you're going to do that with the parent. And you saw Rhea, too, when we had our back and forth, she kind of subtly ignored that. That comes up a lot where parents are doing that, and she was ignoring it fairly subtly, and that can be really effective with parents. I mean, I'm sure you all know that you see that kind of stuff. So.
She did. She used a lot of differential attention.
They did a lot of differential attention. So we talk about the parallel process in PCIT. So get back to your question and the ignoring, the skills that we want the parents to use with the child, we use with the parent. And that includes things like ignoring the sassy comments between each other and being very mindful I'm getting the wrap it
The
up
hook.
sign.
We're getting the
We're
hook.
getting the hook. But being very mindful of what I attend to and what I don't.
We'll stick around after so folks have more questions, but I think we want to jump into the last activity, right?
Yeah.
So
Give you guys a chance to practice.